Hi, folks. I'm Joe Leslie of J&L Creative Solutions. Are you prepared to take your hot seat challenge? Thank you for being a part of our program today. My guest today is
Alise Kabakoff. Hi, everyone.
Thank you for being a part of our group today, our package group. Yes, I guess it is for our audience also. For those who are new to us, we thank you for the visit. For those who are coming back, we thank you even more. You see enough value to actually come back for more than one time. The concept is, are you prepared to take the hot seat challenge to discover an ingredient of your secret sauce? And unscripted, unrehearsed, I will ask at some point Elise to share what's her favorite pastime. Because we really want to know who she is and not what she does so much at this point. And then for the latter part of this 30-minute program, then we'll talk about her business. And what else am I going to say for them? Oh, I keep forgetting. I take notes. So when I look down, it's not because I'm falling asleep. It's because I have this board here, which is now blank, basically. And I can refer back to because I have a mind like a sieve. And if it's not recorded, it doesn't exist in my life. So with that being said, I'm going to now ask Elise, what's your favorite pastime? Oh, I got to say, technically, this is a live pre-recorded podcast. I've been told we used to do live, that's fine, but when you do a pre-record, you must make that distinction. I don't understand the phrasing because I've never heard a dead pre-recorded live podcast or production, but here we are, folks, live pre-recorded. So let me get back on track. So Elise, what's your favorite pastime?
Well, my favorite pastime is what I do for a living.
Right, I want to hear about what you're doing for, let me rephrase that. I hear what you're saying. Let's go back to 3 years of age in your life. What did you enjoy? Yes, when you're 3 years old, what did you enjoy doing? 3 to 5, I'll be generous.
You know, from what I remember from 3 to 5, we moved to Arizona from Brooklyn when I was 4.
Okay.
So I do have some memories of before I was 4 years old.
Right.
And when my mom was alive and we would sit down and chat every now and again, I would go, do you remember when we were living in Brooklyn and that happened? And she goes, I cannot believe you remember that.
That's funny.
So I have memories going back to when before I was 4.
Okay, let me ask you this then. Let's say you're 7 to 9. Were you one to pick up a pencil and start drawing or tinkering with the erector sets? Or did you have something you intuitively enjoyed doing? That you can
actually, I like to write.
Oh, okay.
My mom was very good with grammar.
Right.
And so she was kind of like a grammar gremlin. And so it kind of rubbed off on me. So grammar, just writing and expressing.
Was it a diary format? Was it a prose?
I did keep a diary, like most teenage girls. I did have diaries.
Right.
And then I kind of outgrew them. But I guess now it's called journaling. People are
fancy word. I get that sounds appropriate, I guess. Sure.
Yeah. But I just kind of don't have the time for that. But I do keep a paper calendar, which is kind of my to-do my to-do journal.
Right.
And that keeps me on the straight and narrow.
So you created your own paper calendar, you said, or you use that as a technique for yourself?
I actually have a company that I bought my first one from, and I absolutely loved it. I used to be a Franklin daytimer.
Okay.
But once I started working for myself, I didn't want to have like 3 inches worth of daily paper,
right?
Which I thought obviously wasn't very good for the environment. So I found this calendar, and it has a month and it has weeks and things like that. It has big squares to write things in.
Right.
I liked it so much. I think I just got my one for 2025, but I think it's like my 4th or 5th one.
Okay, I'm impressed for 2025, and it's only what, September and October.
I know, but there's things that I need to write ahead of time.
Such as
I have a medication I have to take every 2 weeks, so that, and I already have like an ENT appointment, and I put the cards in there, so it's
a sense of organization, and it sounds
exactly,
like, yes, you don't lose track of yourself.
Yeah, and time management.
Okay, time management. I like that. And again, folks, I'm looking down to make notes. Now, were there any things? So you are a teenager. You mentioned young adult, perhaps. Were there other items that you picked up of interest, curiosity that grabbed at you?
Actually, I used to do a lot of sewing. which is part of what I do now. So we'll just
Well,
talk
no,
about
no,
that
she wants to
aspect.
jump the gun, folks. And I
Well,
don't want to know.
I know, but
I'm just
you know,
teasing you. What
but
grabbed you about sewing? Let me go back to that differently.
okay. Well, I lived in Phoenix where it was brutally hot. I'm in LA and it's going to be brutally hot this weekend and today.
Yeah.
And I made a lot of my summer clothes. So like short sleeve tops, sleeveless tops.
But how did you pick that up, though? Was it you looked at a cookbook one day?
Home ec.
Okay.
Home ec. So you know, the boys took shop, the girls took home ec because I went to
remember those
school in the
days.
Dark Ages.
Right.
And so I kind of like the creativity of being able to go to the fabric store,
right,
and pick out what I wanted and pick out a pattern, and then just, you know, make it happen.
Okay, I hear
and
that.
To this day, I'm still interested in how things are put together. So about 20 years ago, my husband, he still plays in this concert band, and we went to the Midwest Clinic in Chicago in December.
Right.
And they had the Jackie Kennedy clothing collection there.
Right.
At the Field Museum. And I went and I literally walked around every single thing like 3 or 4 times, looking at the way it was put together.
Interesting.
Yeah, how it was constructed. And there were some really, really pretty things.
What is it that interests you about how things are put together? Is it like the puzzle solving, the novelty?
Pretty much, because I mean, it's just like a jigsaw puzzle. When you're making something and you have a pattern, all the pieces have to fit by the time you're done.
Right.
If the pieces don't fit, then obviously there's a problem.
I get that. And if I understand you correctly, and I'm still writing as I'm talking, sorry for not giving you eye contact.
That's fine.
It's not so much how things look together, it's how they function together. Am I getting you correct on that?
Exactly. And when you put something together, which carries into a lot of what I do, you want to make sure that it's put together correctly and it's put together expertly, and it's not going to fall apart. It's not going to look shoddy.
Right.
And especially, you know, if I'm the one wearing it, you know, I don't want it to look bad.
Duh, that's kind of an intuitive thought. I get that. And I made a comment to you before. We've only been at this for 16 minutes. And I'm shocked because normally, as I say, we spend of the half an hour, 2/3 of it on average, asking you about your favorite pastime. And I make notes. The challenge I have here is that my note board is almost completely filled up. So I'm running out of space to ask questions.
Well,
so,
I guess you need another sheet of paper.
No. We're going to flow into another direction here. You give a lot of information in a very short time period. So it's not, I hear you what you're saying, but I'm intrigued by what you're saying also. And I'm going to share with you my thoughts that at some point you began sewing and home ec. I get that concept. I was in school also. And as you said, guys did the shop and ladies did the home ec. And I asked you at one point, what grabbed you about it? And let me backtrack. Well, I'm going to stay with where I am for the moment. And you liked the concept, interested how things are put together. And to digress a little bit, you're talking about the museum that you visited, I guess with your father?
No. I went with, my husband was with his concert band. Okay. And we were all in Chicago, and there were 6 ladies. Several of us were wives of people who were, our husbands were in the band, but there were a few other single people, and 6 of us went to the Field Museum, which is right near Soldier Field, where the exhibit was.
Yes. Okay.
And so we had like a ladies' day. We went to the museum, and then Marshall Fields was still around, you know, the big, huge department store.
Right. Now, excuse me, for those who aren't familiar with Chicago, that was the major high-class store.
Oh, yeah.
In the environment.
And on the top floor, they had a cafeteria.
Okay.
So after we went to the Field Museum, we all got into a couple of cabs, and we went to Marshall Fields, and we went up to the restaurant / cafeteria, and then we had lunch, and it was a lovely ladies' day.
Sounds good.
But they almost had to drag me out of the museum because they didn't, you know, they were done and I was still looking.
Okay. And that's an interesting point, that the interest you had about the arrangement, the organization, something that grabbed at you. It wasn't idle curiosity, or I wonder if, that you made the comment, which I was about to lead into, that this is something that really is a part of who you are. how things are put together. And at some point you talked about your Franklin calendars. And most people I know who buy calendars, they usually buy it 2 or 3 months, February, March almost, for the beginning of the year. And you're already 2 or 3 months in advance. So, so organization is an important part of your life. And for functional purpose, and then you talk about, as we go into the knitting, the similar concept that you did it for yourself. Well, you did it because of a school requirement, but it grabbed onto you, if I heard you correctly.
Yes.
And in doing it, it wasn't enough to get through it and get it done and, hey, look at my scarf. That aesthetically it had to look good, and it had to be functional. I'm not even sure which is more important, the functionality or the aesthetics. It's an equal war between you.
I think it's equal. I think it's equal. But for the knitting and crocheting side, my mom taught me when I was 13.
Right.
So I learned how to sew in grade school, and then in high school, and went into college.
Right.
And then my mother taught me to knit and crochet when I was 13.
Okay. Now, was that because she saw an interest in what you were doing?
Her mom taught her.
So tradition.
I watched my mom knit. I remember you were talking about when I was like very young. My grandma knitted me a navy blue snowsuit with a white like stripe across the top with red hearts.
Right.
And that because in Brooklyn in the winter, of course, it was really cold and it was snowing.
Fair.
But when I told my mother that I still remembered that navy blue and white outfit that my grandma had knitted me, she couldn't believe that I actually remembered that. I still remember it to this day.
Interesting.
And I'm almost 71, so do the math.
I hear that. So it's a tradition. I'm hearing several things to say this differently. That your sense of organization was certainly, by the time you were old enough to order your own calendars, you did, because you realized that to not waste time, effort, and energy, that it required organization. And quite frankly, I don't knit, I don't sew. I hate to say what I don't, but I don't. But I do realize if you drop a stitch or you drop a loop or whatever it may be, it could unravel. Yep. It could affect the design and along with the structure of it as a flaw concept. And so organization and structure and design, it seems to be a part of who you are. And I'm really intrigued by the fact it's also a tradition. It's a family tradition. Mm-hmm. So am I far off so far my observation?
No, not at all.
All right. So let me ask you this then. What got you on the path to what you're currently doing? First I'll describe what you do, and then let's talk about that.
Okay. So I have a little business. It's called Knit Me, Sew Me. And I'm the owner and creative director. In 2000, like a year or two before that, I found a designer yarn store in Santa Monica. My husband and I had met. We lived together. The rent was cheap, everything like that. Mm-hmm. So I went into the yarn store, and I bought designer yarn to make a sweater. And then I joined the yarn club. And every month I would get these cards with different sweaters. And I would go in there every month and drop $300-400 on designer yarn for sweater set, whatever. I'm going
to interrupt. What was your motivation?
I wanted to make something that was designer and unique and different.
Okay, I get that.
And using different textures and colors of yarn.
Okay.
I also made my husband 2 beautiful multicolored cardigans and a pullover. So my mother came to visit, and I said, I have so many sweaters and sweater sets. I don't even know what to do with them anymore. And I said, what do you think I ought to do? And she says, I think you should start a business. Mm-hmm. I was like, okay. So I started the business. It was under a different name, but it was basically just baby things and kids things.
Right.
So it was baby blankets, stuffed animals, bean bags, booties, bottle holders, things like that. And I didn't know how sustainable that sort of business was going to be. And then I decided to start another division of just the accessories.
Okay.
So I make hats for everybody from newborn to adult. I do scarves, I do headbands, head wraps, fingerless gloves. Mm-hmm. And then I also do a line of home goods where almost everything is made out of washable, sustainable cotton.
Okay.
Okay. So in 2017, the person who developed my first website and had hosted it on his server called me to tell me he got a full-time job and he was going to take it down. And I said, well, what does that mean for me? And he said, you're going to need to find another host, and you're going to need to do a new website. And I'm like saying to myself, oh, crap. What do I know about that?
Something you're looking forward to. I get that.
Yeah. And so I met a gal, and we were trying to figure out how to combine the baby stuff with the accessory stuff. And after like 45 minutes, I just threw out, oh, why don't we just call it Knit Me, Sew Me, Crochet Me? And she says, why don't we just call it Knit Me, Sew Me? It's short, it's catchy. And then we developed the logo, which I think is now bye-bye because I'm rebranding.
Okay.
And so the website got created and off I went. So I was doing this part-time from 2000 until November 2020 when I got laid off during COVID.
Okay.
So basically it was a hobby that I always wanted to be a business. And then after I got laid off, I was almost 67. My husband and I sat down and he said, what do you want to do? And I said, I want to see what I could do if I do Knit Me, Sew Me full time. So right after that little conversation, it became a business that used to be a hobby.
Well, what I'm hearing here is so far is that because you couldn't decide for yourself, Mother Nature and COVID decided for you, yes? Exactly. And, by that time, I've been working for other people for over 50 years. Mentally, I'd already checked out. I didn't want to work for anybody else anymore. I wanted to see what I could do if I did my own thing. And I will tell you, honestly, it is the hardest thing I have ever done for the least amount of money I have ever made. But on the flip side, it gives me joy and it's my passion. I hear that. And I think in terms of passion, I hear several things. Rephrase that. Any number of people I've met let me backtrack again. Back in the day, anybody under 35 or 40 may not know what we're talking about. But yes, there was a time when the guys took mechanical stuff and cutting and hitting with a hammer, and the girls were forced to take how to cook and how to sew as part of the lifestyle issue. So I get that part of it. I think it's interesting that you were already designed as a human being to be organized and to be functional. When you mentioned your husband's event and you wanted to keep looking at this Museum of Natural History, I think you were talking about, that you wanted to go back because it was more than idle curiosity. It was all this. You wanted while your right brain was appreciating the aesthetic concept of it, your left brain was it's a puzzle to pull together. And I suspect I'm going to hazard a guess. So I'm ahead of myself here. Let me do it this way. That what you do is unique, different, because that's who you are and how you look at things.
Exactly.
And it's going to be mechanically sound, if I'm hearing it correctly, because that's the nature of who you are. And then you throw on that the legacy of family, that grandma did it, ma did it, you did it, in terms of the knitting side.
Yeah.
So it's in your blood. It's in your genetic code. I'll say it like that.
It is. I mean, and that's one of the things why I love what I do is because the products I create are not available in mass retail.
Right.
And I also do a lot of custom orders, which I just love. So, people are asking me for really interesting things. My ducky is my biggest product. And so I'm making different colored ducks for people.
Right.
And I'm just doing all sorts of really great things and I like when people challenge me. So if somebody calls me up and says, can you do this? I'll say, well, let me see what I can do to make it happen. And then I'll start doing research.
Okay. Well, you mentioned ducky. What's that all about?
Oh, ducky, I make these cute little stuffed ducks.
Oh, excuse me, you have a show and tell for us?
I don't know if you're going to be able to see it from here.
Well, I see it. Yes. Okay.
Okay. And I just finished Mary Kay ducks for a Mary Kay representative. They're pink and black.
I get that.
So how the duck came around, I've made the ducks for years and sold them with the baby things. And then in early July of 2022, my sister and I were getting ready to go on a cruise to Europe, and I was doing a Smart Connect on Alignable, and I was in a breakout room with somebody, and I was telling her about the trip, and she said to me, "Do you have any of your products that you could take with you, like Flat Stanley?" I'm like, "Oh my God, I could take a duck." So I took a duck.
Right.
It was like the funniest thing anybody had ever seen. I mean, literally from the airport to the baggage, to the hotel, to the restaurant. I mean, everywhere we went on this cruise, we did things with Ducky. Okay. And people wanted pictures with the duck. Everybody was asking about the duck. Mm-hmm. And then when I got back, my social media gal and I, we created 19 like 30-second videos on Knit Me Sew Me's YouTube channel called Lucky Ducky Goes to Europe.
I hear that. Now, okay. I got to ask the question, why not a mouse or an elephant? How did duck happen?
Well, because Ducky is only about 8-9 inches tall.
Right.
And he fits in my backpack. So now, I needed to bring something that was small enough to put in different places, and that I could easily carry in my backpack with my hat and my sunscreen and everything like that. I
hear that, but the question, I'm laughing because, again, the functional side came out as part of the creative outcome. It's how the two things walk hand in hand. But I'm asking again, though, why not small? A mouse, a chipmunk, a bird? Well,
that's a possibility. I actually will start looking for patterns that I can create something about this size.
Right.
Because I can't do something really big, because to get it on the plane, is an issue with, carry-ons and stuff like that. So right. I always try to bring something that's small, and Ducky's pretty small. And it turns out that he's been to Europe now 3 times. He's been to New York.
Excuse me, Ducky's name is Ducky. Why are he and not a she?
I always think of Ducky as a he.
Okay.
But then Deb, who she's a Mary Kay rep I met on Alignable, she named hers Posh Pink, and it's a her.
Fair enough.
So, it just depends. I just always thought of Ducky as he.
As a guy, I get that concept.
Yeah,
interesting.
Exactly. So it's a lot of fun, mm-hmm. and I'm having a ball with it. And so, I'm sending out 3 today to a customer, so that's fun.
Very nice.
And it just turned out to be like a real conversation starter, and everybody wanted pictures with the duck. So I'm handing out business cards all over the place.
You're making a good point that, and I hadn't thought about that, but you did make the story that having something like that for anybody, first off, 2 things. If you have I know people who have, quote, everything. And the agonizing part of it for their birthday, for their anniversary, for whatever it may be, what can I get other than a tie or perfume that might be different and also appreciated for those that put enough thought into it. And I get that. So certainly what you're doing is original. And on top of that, you have an openness. When I threw at you, well, why not a mouse or a chipmunk? Yeah, I could do that. Let me think about that. You're not afraid of anything. It's a testimony to your skill. You'll see there's a template for it, I guess, if that's your pattern already out there. I guess that's how you call it, perhaps. But what I'm seeing here is somebody that has a legacy of 2 things. On the right brain side, grandma, ma, that's the history I was taught. That's part of who I am, my legacy. It's in my bloodline. On the other hand, you have an intuitive desire to figure out how the things work. So I suspect what you put out there probably lasts for a good period of time also. Because you work hard, and you don't work hard, you work naturally, I'll say it more honestly, to put something together that has an aesthetic value with a core essence of functionality and purpose. And I think that's an intriguing combination.
And to add to that, in April, I do this event out in Simi Valley, and these 2 gals came into my booth, and I recognized one of them immediately, and I go, "Oh, Felice," and she's like, "Alise." And I rode the train with her downtown like over 20 years ago. Right. We would take the same train to go to downtown LA for our jobs.
Okay.
And she said to me, "Do you remember when the both of us came to your house and we bought scarves?" And honestly, I didn't. So I said, "No, I don't remember that." And she says, "They are just as beautiful now as they were when we bought them 20 years ago."
Interesting.
And I have scarves and boas that I made myself that look brand new.
Okay. When you do scarves, I don't do knitting, but I know people sometimes have a favorite yarn that they work with. Do you have a favorite material that you work with?
I do. Before everybody discontinued it, they used to make this really thick chenille, really soft and fluffy. And I made these boas that were just pretty astounding. And when they discontinued the yarn, I was really not happy about that.
Right.
So, yeah. And then I found something like it at this yarn place in Turkey, the country of Turkey.
Right.
And I made more, and then they discontinued it as well. So I'm still on the lookout for what I used to have that I love so much.
I hear that.
You know what I mean? But
I'm going to interrupt with a question because before I forget, and I might be saying this incorrectly. Alcapla, there's an animal that has
alpaca.
Alpaca. Do you ever use that material?
You know what? I don't, because it's really expensive.
Okay. Because I know a lady that has a farm for that, I think. And,
yes.
And
I met somebody on Alignable who does alpaca.
Okay.
The thing about what I do is I have to get over the hurdle of why it's better to buy handmade and spend a little bit more rather than going to Walmart, Target, or Costco and buying something that was made somewhere else. Because everything from Knit Me Sew Me is 100% made here in the USA.
Right.
So, and that's what I have to impart is people saying, well, why should I pay more for handmade? And it's like, well, you work really hard for your money. And if you're working hard for your money and you want to spend your hard-earned money, wouldn't it be better to spend it on something that is made with expertise and quality and is going to last and cost you a little bit more, rather than buying something that isn't probably going to last very long, and then you're going to have to replace it. And by the time you replace it, you should have bought the handmade one to begin with.
I hear that. Now I'm going to be blunt. Some people would see that as a selling technique.
You know what? It can be.
No,
but it's also a practicality.
I hear that. I don't argue your point, but there's so much out there. This is actually in your favor, so hang with me on this. That there's so much out there already that people have become cynical, and certainly with YouTube and Craigslist, no matter how you express it, they'll immediately will go out and check behind you on who makes ducks. I think a selling point for you, and I think as a marketing concept, what I'm impressed by is, first off, you use ducks as a conversation piece. It's something different. So if somebody is new to a community, new to a synagogue or a church, a camp out thing, let's meet people. Some people are kind of hesitant to say, hi, how are you? But if you carry your duck around with you, okay, maybe even a matter you can strap it on your shoulder or something like that, or a backpack, a mommy pack for it to hang out in your front. Now you've got conversation that happens spontaneously. So I think people who will come to you and choose to spend the value money are the ones who want originality, who want a way of life that going to a local wholesaler likely won't provide. Oh, you got another one of those mouse things. No, it's what you do is, how many ducks do I see in the store? I don't see many. If it's and by the way, if they like the duck part, to me, that's kind of your introductory calling card. Then they'll respect better the other things you might make for them also. That's my approach to it. So if people ask, how do I stand out from the competition? What I see in you is a sense of, it's got to make sense on a functional manner, even if it's a duck that says nothing at all, in terms of how well it's made. You've alluded to that, but anybody can say it's the best made for the lowest dollar value. But the legacy you bring to the table, the style of who you are. When I talk about secret sauce, it's not something about what you do, it's who you are, the person. So what I'm hearing here is a person that commits a lot to what they do, very original, not fearless. I'll say is fearless about, yeah, I'll check it out if I can find a pattern for it. And I suspect if you don't find a pattern, you might even work in creating something for yourself because you like the idea well enough. So for the type of audience that will be drawn to you are people who want to themselves be unique existence to the world around them. Any thoughts on that?
Yes, definitely. And one of the things that I also add to the secret sauce is customer service. Mm-hmm. And so if someone comes to my booth at a boutique, they get hands-on service, not like what you get today when you walk in the store and you can't find anybody. But for me, it's I greet everybody. I explain what everything is. They can try everything on. I'm very honest. So what I learned when I worked in retail in college is if you tell somebody something looks good on them and you know it doesn't, they will return it 100% of the time.
Fair enough.
So, instead of saying that doesn't look good on you, I say something like, I think I have something that you might like better. And go at that end. But that's my whole thing is people get personal customer service.
Right.
If they're ordering online or they have a question, they can email me. My phone number's there. They can text me and I get back to people right away.
I hear that. I'm going to interrupt because we're running out of our curfew is about to strike here.
I'm sorry.
And that's okay. I was about to say I enjoy your passion. I respect your enthusiasm, and I'm convinced of your sincerity versus your competition in large part, not because you say it nicer, because your history of who you are represents the quality that you bring with you. It's more than just the looks. It's more than just the function, the structure, the integrity. It's all of it together of equal value.
Yes.
I think this has been a very, very enjoyable session. I want to thank you. And what was your duckie's name again?
You know what? I haven't named mine yet.
Oh, okay.
Maybe I should do a contest. Name Alise's duck.
There you go.
There we go. I think I'll just pop that on all my social media and say, I need a name for my duck.
Right. And maybe some type of award for those that one that does it, first place, second place, third place.
Yep.
And the nice thing about that is because there's an additional value to your market, they're going to now solicit other people to come in. So it kind of spreads by itself. So, see, folks, this is why we do this. You really don't know what you're going to learn about each other. Again, unscripted, unrehearsed. Oh, commercial break. In the description, you want more information about Alise, it's in the description part. For connectivity, contacts, for myself, part of YouTube. Share us out. Leave comments. We do follow up. We do audit. We do respond back. Sign in or register or subscribe to my program. If you want to be a part of the Hot Seat Challenge, please connect with us. And I'm kind of rushed because we're a few minutes, 2 minutes behind. This is our longest one yet. So thanks, folks, for being a part of our program.